You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, good to be back. Just two-man team today, so ready to take it on.
Lovely stuff. So just the two of us today. As said, Jack, I don't know what Jack's doing. He's out for the day. Ross is off in York doing his best to go to pubs and restaurants and catch COVID as best he can.
Recording in progress.
And I think that's probably just gone through. I just clicked recording, and I think that's just gone straight through to the live stream. So
Perfect.
And also, some people are saying there's no sound again, which is what I think it's just your fault, Cameron. I think that's what
Is
happened.
it my
last
fault?
time.
I'm 2 from 2 when I've rocked up.
Every time you arrive, there's no sound, but it's back. It's working. Great. I don't know what happened there, but we're good. Okay. We'll get on with things shortly, shall we? Day 4, another good day of cricket to go over. But before that, I won't make Cameron do the messages, so I'll just remind you all.
It's very kind. Thank you.
To please click like and subscribe on YouTube, and head over to Twitter and Instagram at the Cricket Pod. Follow us there, and keep in touch. Send in your questions and all the rest, and patreon.com/the Cricket Pod if you'd like to support us there, and get your questions definitely answered. And there's some data. There's some IPL ball by ball data there, which I'm sure will be of interest to any budding analysts. But we are test focused today, and it's unfortunately the Ashes. We've made it to the end of the 4th day though. We've done that, and as always, a brief summary of the goings on before we get into the nitty gritty. So England's day was kind of bookended by Joe Root getting the ball in the testicles. He couldn't field for a large part of the day after getting one in the nets, and at the end of the day, sadly, he copped another one from Stark, which looked rather uncomfortable. But in the middle of that, there was also rather a lot of action. Carnage at the start as England took 3 for 10. Joss Buttler dropped the ball and then took 2 stunning catches. And suddenly England thought that maybe there's an outside chance of them setting a target that a competent team would be able to chase down. Not England, but a competent team. But the nerves were settled pretty quickly after Labuschagne with another 50, Travis Head with a 50, and England turned to the off spin of Ollie Robinson, as if to highlight how well things were going. And it was a bit of a case of just waiting around for Australia to decide they'd have enough fun before putting England back in to bat, where Hamid was out quickly. Burns and Root fought well. Burns and Malan, fought well until he fell. Root came in, and we were looking like at the end of the day there was an outside chance that we would have Root and Stokes there at the crease to maybe try and bat out the entire of day 5, but the aforementioned ball into the testicles really shook Root up, and of the last ball of the day, he edged through to Alex Carey, and surely Cameron with that wicket also went any hope England have of getting something out of this game.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. There's no hope of England getting anything from this game. I think one of the biggest kind of potential problems I was thinking that England have is that we're 82 for 4, and I've gone, we've done all right there. I was like, Rory Burns, well done, mate. Like, it looked really nice, got through. I feel like that's a kind of win for him. Hamid, I was sad. I was disappointed for him, and for 2 reasons. One, because obviously he's been dismissed for 0, but also because it's a bit of a kind of like a confirmation bias dismissal. Like, he had all this chat about having his low hands before he came into the series. And then it's come, like, for the first time, it's kind of bitten him in the arse or whatever. And so now that's kind of going to be a monkey on his back. That's kind of gross. Say it happens again next match, this is going to be kind of a technical kind of quirk that's going to have like the magnifying glass on it. And then Malan and Burns looked all right. And then Malan got 20, which is nothing really. And then Joe Root was looking like Joe Root. And I just kind of, I think that's kind of the damning indictment of this England team is that I think we're fine. That was pretty good showing for us, and yet we're kind of 380 runs behind or something, and we're 4 down. So I don't know. I mean, realistically, the question is what time this kind of review is going to be on tomorrow. How long are we going to last as an England team? We're going to make it through to lunch. We're going to make it through to tea or whatever the dinner and drinks, whatever is. But yeah, a disappointingly mediocre day in that it was mediocre, and I was quite happy with it.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice summary of where we currently are in this in this England setup. I mean, we've taken it to a fifth day, which is an achievement.
Huge. What a treat.
How much of taking it to a fifth day is down to England themselves? I would question, but yeah, I mean, being happy with Rory Burns scoring 34 is about it's about it, isn't it?
Okay, he's got 2 more Test matches from that. Easy.
That was the next thing I was going to say. I mean, do you think like that's basically called off the Reaper for 10 minutes?
Yeah, and great. We kind of need this because I think one of the problems we have as England fans, and I think one of the reasons why Rory Burns has been quite liked and has this volatile career, but it's kind of been let off for averaging 32 for 32 Test matches, whatever. It's because that's kind of where we expect him to be. When we were coming off the back of Cook and Strauss, and we had Leith, Stoneman, Carberry, Hales, Robson, Compton, all averaging 30, putting up the same numbers that Rory Burns is, we were going, well, you should be averaging 45, so this is rubbish. Whereas Burns was just kind of doing as expected. He is the kind of square peg for the square hole in the side. But where we have the likes of kind of Butler and Bairstow and Pope kind of posting similar numbers, they're not hitting their ceiling, and so that's a massive disappointment. And I think that's where, as long as Burns can keep being okay, everyone will be okay with that. And I think that would also that's something that I think I think tomorrow, Pope and Butler, like, given there's nothing really riding on the match, like if they save this will be kind of career defining stuff. Whereas if they get another duck, you're kind of all of a sudden they have the kind of selection Reaper on their back. I think that's something where, like the Ben Folkes drum, I mean, it's always being banged by someone on Twitter and the cricket ether. I think that's something that really works in his favour. Is if Ben Folkes came into this England side and did exactly as Butler does, it's almost like he's doing better. Yeah. Because we'd expect Ben Folkes to average like 32, 33, whereas with Butler we're like, just put it in the stands again. But
so they're sort of suggesting that they're almost victims of their own success, be it the one-day game or the 2020 game, or Ollie Pope at Surrey, that kind of thing.
They're kind of victims of their own potential. Yeah, victims of their potential.
Potential.
It's hard to say that they're victims of their own ability.
Call it success in terms of Butler and the one-day team, for example, and Bairstow opening the batting for the one-day side,
But even how quickly things change, like I had a couple of messages from friends going like, is Hamid going to play next test? Like, does Crawley come in? And you think, like, 2 days ago, he'd kind of had these two, like, promising knocks.
Yeah, and it was Crawley for Burns.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that, I mean, the fickleness doesn't help, does it? I mean, obviously, if you're not performing, you don't deserve to be in the side, but with the constant chatter around, and it's a merry-go-round of the same names as well, that's the problem. When no one's able to set themselves apart from everyone else, you're always sort of under the cloud of, well, maybe this guy who's failed so far will stop failing if we get rid of you now.
This is something, and I can't prove this, but something I was wondering is that we do have this merry-go-round, and so we have a kind of bizarre contradiction where it's the same players playing all the time, but I don't feel like any of these players would argue they've had like a really fair crack or extended run at it. So Pope's played 20 Test matches, but how many of these Test matches has he played in a row? And Bairstow, who's averaged 22 in his last 22 Test matches, has been chopped in and out. And Crawley would be, if Crawley comes back in and has 3 more tests, and all of a sudden he's played 20 Test matches, and people go, well, why haven't you cracked it yet? And he says, well, I've had kind of 5 sets of 4 Test matches at a time. And we have this bizarre case where people are getting really long goes at it, but also kind of feel themselves like they've always been on the cusp of being dropped because we have these same names being rotated. And what the answer to that is, I don't know, other than if you pick a bloke and stick with him for ages. But then how can you do that if someone's not scoring any runs?
Well, I mean, you could argue that the reason they keep getting changed is because they're just not up to it. But I mean, I think it comes back to, and it's, I sort of almost have to apologise for making the same points over and over again. But like when you've got the coach as the selector, you're stuck with the same guys over and over again because you don't have the opportunity to go out and find who the next person is. If the next person is the right person, we might just not have. We might just be going through a dry spell of cricketers. Who knows? But let's rewind a bit back to the start of the day where there was kind of some. I mean, you wouldn't call it hope, would you? It was because we were never going to keep Australia down to a score that we could have chased because we would have had to bowl them out for about -50 for that to happen. But there was a glimmer of excitement at least with 3 quick wickets, Joss Buttler taking some stunning catches, James Anderson bowled well and took a wicket, and we were sort of it was one of those a bit late but nice to see England turn up.
Yeah, in the dead of night where I set my alarm today. I was like, right, whatever the opposite of, people always talk about moving days in test matches, where like the day, right, this is where stuff gets serious. And I thought, today is the opposite. It's going to be the opposite of whatever that is. All that's going to happen is Australia are going to move their lead from 250 to 500. They're going to have 2 hours at England, and we're going to be about 82 for 4, which actually is exactly what happened. But it actually happened in a very entertaining fashion. And it is bizarre. And I think it is quite an interesting one where sometimes the kind of freneticism of a day gets amplified because the media centre had this kind of COVID outbreak in Australia. So BBC weren't there, ABC had to go home as well. I think it was ABC. All the journos out there were quite kind of like, oh my God, there's a lot going on today. And there was a lot going on, and it was being broadcast to you by a bunch of people who were understandably kind of a bit jittery about like what's going on right now, trying to get to Melbourne straight away, basically. And so you have this very bizarre day, which starts with the England captain not there, in what starts as comical fashion and ends in being like, "Oh, are you actually okay?" And then you have Ollie Robinson bowling tweakers, which blew my mind. And then I saw some people from Sussex
in
saying,
shades as well, which added to the look.
Yeah, it's bizarre. And then so you have Ollie Robinson bowling that, then you have Dawid Malan coming on having.
Yeah, Dawid Malan and his debut wicket being Marnus Labuschagne is quite an entertaining thought to have managed. You're back, Cameron. I was filling in your silence by enjoying the fact that Dawid Malan's first Test wicket was Marnus Labuschagne.
Do you know what? It's good that we're so in sync because that's exactly what I was saying when I was unbroadcastable.
Lovely.
But yeah, one thing I would like to kind of nip in the bud potentially is I saw some takes of like England take 4 wickets with spin and kind of evidence. Yeah, it's not real spin. It's nothing. It's kind of it's them kind of trying to hurry on their own kind of demise, make the death kind of less painful. But it'll be really interesting to know what the bowling attack they go with for the next Test matches, because I think Woes is probably done now. I don't think he'll come back in. But so you imagine Wood would come in for someone. Well, I imagine it'll be Woes, but then you kind of leave that tail a bit extended.
Yeah.
Does Leach come in? Some people chatting about Robinson was looking a bit kind of sore throughout. It's hard. I don't really. We're kind of shuffling a not a hopeless pack, but a kind of doomed pack at the moment.
Yeah. So I think what I'd say. I mean, you're right. You're right to say that the fact that Root and Malan took wickets is not really worth reading into much. But that's not to say that not picking a spinner wasn't a terrible idea, because we did turn to Ollie Robinson to bowl spin when Joe Root wasn't available, which suggests that was something that we wanted to do.
So strange.
I mean, Gary Lyon, I saw I think it was a CricViz stat that I think he's averaged 6.3 degrees of turn today, which is the most he's managed since Edgbaston in 2019. And well, we all know what happened then. So maybe there's a miracle on the cards.
Yeah.
But
it was getting to that territory where people start going, spinning too much. They're saying it's like they're going, people can't get near him. And it was, I remember the first 3 overs he bowled today to Malan and Burns, he looked unplayable. And it was just kind of a very much a case of eventually they kind of got more comfortable. But I don't know if I don't know. I think if you have a spinner that you think is the best spinner and improves your team, you obviously pick them. But I just don't think that. I don't think England think that of. I don't think England think that Leach or Bess improves their team, and that's kind of. I mean, I don't know how you kind of how. It's not going to make you feel very nice if you're Jack Leach was on Bess and there
No.
Because like they would.
He's probably used to it by now.
Yeah, it's horrible. And I just feel really sorry for Jack Leach at the moment because his own team kind of obviously don't fully believe in his ability. And then you see that Kevin Peterson, Kevin Peterson? Quite a good nickname, actually.
That is good. That's good. That's going to stick.
Okay. KP, when he was tweeting about Nathan Lyon, he was like, can someone just whack this bloke?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, that is for all the pragmatism that the Aussies would have put on, like why they're attacking Jack Leach and why it's good for the game. No. There's none of that in the change room. The conversation goes, this bloke's shit. Try and put him as far into the road as you can. And so Jack Leach is living this probably very uncomfortable existence right now, where he's like, does anyone who's believing in me? And no one, unfortunately.
Maybe he needs to have a little chat with Simon Kerrigan about how to bounce back from an Aussie onslaught. But
you can sign a contract with Northants.
I mean, the other thing about Kevin Peterson is not everyone's as good as he was, so it's not that easy to stick. He was able on a few occasions to stick Shane Warne into the stands, which is no mean feat. So I think he needs to not judge people by his own ability in the past.
Sure.
But, It is a tricky one, but I think we might hear this tomorrow because I think we're being joined by Shane Dites, who has been on the podcast before, but he messaged Jack the other day because he spent 10 years playing at Adelaide, and he basically said on like the 3rd, 4th day at the Adelaide Oval, any spinner becomes a decent spinner. Like it's good for spin, really, and it's just that and that's the thing. Like you just think about selection of maybe actually in this situation Jack Leach would make your team a bit better. And
do you think England? Because I remember Jack of this podcast before the first test kind of brought up those numbers of Leach left hand versus right hand kind of matchups, and how Australia have kind of 4 left-handers in their top 6 or 7, and Leach actually performs really poorly against left-handers, whereas Root performs very well. And there's part of me which wonders whether England literally just think, well, we are picking a spinner, we're picking the best spinner for this Australian kind of 11, and we believe that is Joe Root. And I don't think the reality is too far off of that. I think they genuinely really believe in Root as a bowler, and I think they may believe that he is the best spinner to go up against this Aussie side. Whether people agree with that, I don't even know if I agree with that. But I don't think it's too far from what it's potentially.
I think you're probably not far off. I mean, I think Joe Root believes in his own bowling. I think the 6 for 10 in Ahmedabad has probably helped that a little bit. But I mean, he's all right. He's not bad as part-time spinners go. He's pretty decent. He gets turn, and he does have a bit of a golden arm at times. I think I don't know if it's so much as whether they believe he's genuinely the best sort of option we've got, or rather, he's the best option we've got in that we're not weakening a batting spot down the order, and there's clearly a concern about the length of the tail, which is obviously because the middle order can't bat. So we're like, well, we don't have a middle order, so we might as well have as long a tail as short a tail as we can, and that's why Wokes is in the side, and supposedly Robinson can bat a bit. He got 40 in his first attempt, but hasn't really shown much of it since. So it's like we're just sort of trying to paper over cracks, I think, rather than pick what is a team that we think might win a game of cricket, and then when it comes to sort of changing things around between test and test, we picked the wrong side for the first test, which means we're going to be picking the wrong side for every one of the next tests. That's for the way I see it. I think that's like a large part of the problem. Like we picked Mark Wood in that test. Now we can't pick Mark Wood now, and we're like, well, actually, we could have done with him, especially if we're not picking Jack Leach. It's we picked Jack Leach when the ball and made him bowl on a pitch that wasn't turning at all, and it was a bit green, and he got dispatched. It's we got it wrong. And the result is we're going to get it wrong for the rest of the winter, and that's what's great about being an England fan.
Oh, so much fun! I do. One of the things I actually found the most saddening today was that I didn't have that kind of Schadenfreude, or I don't actually know how to pronounce the word properly. But normally, when there's like a disaster kind of falling around you and everything's going terribly, you kind of take some kind of bizarre joy out of it and go like, "Oh, this is
like
pretty bad, isn't it?"
Yeah, masochism.
Yeah, we're doing really, really big words today. But today I didn't feel that. I was just sad for everyone, in that Hamid, as I said, had this kind of like dismissal where he's gonna have that kind of held over him for a while. Burns, you kind of realise how hard it is for people to score, like how hard you have to work for your runs. He's out there for 2 hours or whatever, 95 balls, and you're just like, oh well, that's over, and you've only got 30. And I didn't take much joy out of today, unfortunately.
No, it was. I think part of that actually was possibly that there were a few flashes of potential hope, especially with. I think it's a deflating feeling at the end, isn't there, with Joe Root being out? I mean, there was very little chance with Root still in, but the fact that even the tiniest snuff has gone with that last delivery is painful, especially on the back of how it transpired with him on his knees for a good 10 minutes. But that
was bad. That was I saw and I agreed with it. And again, normally if you think about when it happened to Alex Hales during the 100, or when it happens to anyone, you're like, that is really funny, like rather you than me. But now in the knowledge of what happened this morning, not when it happened to it's Root, and you're like, well, we can't let anything bad happen to you. And you know what's happening. He's already had a scan on it. It was quite funny listening to the commentators dance.
I don't know what they were scanning for.
Well, this thing they go like, he's got a scan on his abdomen. He's like, no, he's having a scan on his knob, guys. Like, come on, like this is what's happening. He's not well, and then he gets hit again, and everyone's kind of dancing around the topic, and kind of laughing, and also going, I actually really hope he's okay.
Yeah,
well, let's find out.
Yeah, it was slightly more than a jovial ball to the unmentionables this time. Yeah. And the funniest bit was the runs when he ran to the next ball.
Oh, God.
And he looked like he had...
Why not just take one? Just settle down at the other end. I don't know who scored that second run.
Yeah, that was questionable. But yeah, that was sad to see. We should probably talk about Australia, because there are two teams involved in this game. And I mean, in terms of what they did, it was a pretty simple task for them. Really, it was like put some runs on the board and batting and out the game. But my question, and it's kind of pointless to ask because England were never going to see this game out, and it doesn't really matter. But they could have declared tomorrow lunchtime, and they'd probably still have won. It doesn't matter. But do you think they batted a bit too long? I was surprised that they carried on when they did, because I mean they had the record chase was set after about 170, and they batted on for another like 60 runs after that. Do you think it was just a case of like maybe let's get Cameron Green some runs or something and just...
Yeah, I think there was just kind of... I think the notion, if there's no bad weather around, I think kind of follow-ons kind of died, in that you kind of... There are all these reasons to like, well, we don't actually have to win that quickly. We can use the time. And a lot of people talk about in terms of rest for the bowlers. You go like, well, if we stay out for another hour, someone can get another massage or whatever. Cameron Green, Jai Richardson spoke about when he's coming off the pitch today. He was like, it's really nice for Greeny that he's kind of got into the series now. He's got 33 not out of 43 balls, no boundaries. So that kind of speaks of like what the bowling was at the time. He's just knocking it around, cruising basically, and that'll do well for his confidence. And I think it is just a case of just get as many people into the game and kind of into the series as possible, really. I know they've had 40 overs at us. Like they're fine. I think they've kind of played their hand, and with the confidence of a team who knows they'll get the job done in 120 overs, and they don't have to worry about the miracle of Headingley kind of repeating because they've got 500 to defend. Like, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, England aren't. They're not chasing it down in any. You could run a simulation in this game, like 1,000 times.
There's no way.
There's not one of those where England win it. But I mean, for me, I just think that perhaps if Joe Root were there at the end of the day, some people might start going, did you leave it a bit late? Because just in case, there's a little chance. I mean, I feel like they've possibly left open, like a 2% chance that, not now, but previously there was perhaps a 2% chance that they maybe didn't need to leave there.
I think, and CricViz kind of run these measures, I've seen quite a bit, and where teams will bat to a point where they will bat the opposition out for like they have the kind of the result predictors and say it's like 70% chance Australia win and a 15% chance of a draw and a 15% chance of an England victory. They'll bat England out of that 15%, but then you'll increase the draw. So all of a sudden, like at the other end of whilst you've taken away your opponent's chance of victory, you've actually reduced your own chance of victory. And I'm sure they kind of enter into that territory, but I think kind of realistically they're fine. And with the problem with when you're trying to save a match, nothing. If you need to bat for 120 overs, nothing good happens quickly, but everything bad happens quickly, as it were. So we were. I'm sure you had this as well. We were 2 down today with Root and Burns there, and you went, God, these guys can actually get to the end and then bat for an hour tomorrow. And all of a sudden, that's just snuffed out straight away. I'm
actually, at this point, I should probably put my hand up and apologise to everyone, because I was doing commentary on Guerrilla Cricket and I said, Roy Burns is finally looking all right, and the next ball, he's edged it to slip.
I think you were you were correct.
I'm really sorry. Yeah.
Commentator's curse, striking. You're correct. He was looking great. He was looking
reasonably comfortable. He was playing Lyon well. I mean, I think Lyon's getting a lot of turn, and 30 overs of Lyon tomorrow. We haven't got a hope in hell. Especially, I mean, Ollie Pope will be gone in 5 minutes. That's
the best case scenario for England tomorrow is that Stokes. It's this kind of whole idea of people find their way into the series, and although like realistically the result of it is gone, how much better will England be off for if they have Stokes, Pope and Butler all with kind of a 50 or 60 next to their name? Just how much more comfortable in their own skin they'll feel. That's kind of I think playing for pride is the kind of wrong way of looking at it. You're playing for confidence for the following games that you can actually kind of put up a fight and hopefully get a result.
In all honesty, I think some of these guys are playing for their place. Like Pope, Bairstow, the word Bairstow is hovering around as much as I don't want it to be. He's almost guaranteed to be back in. Joss Butler's under a lot of pressure because he seems to be. He's got a touch of the Ben Stokes in that he takes the ridiculous catches and drops the easy ones. But I mean, we're at this. We've got round to the cycle now, the Joss Butler cycle of he had a few good innings. Now he's back to not keeping that well and not scoring any runs. And this is the cycle where he scores a really good gritty 80 in a losing cause that means absolutely nothing, and people are like, that's what he's in the side for. And then he carries on for another 5-10 tests. That's what we're going to get tomorrow. I'm 100% sure of that. But I mean, in the context of the series, that would be useful at least, wouldn't it, for some confidence?
Yeah, absolutely. And like Butler looks broken, man. I not to repeat just the feeling of the sadness. You look at it and you see every time the camera's on him, like his gaze into the distance seems longer, and he just kind of. I don't really understand. We're only a match and a half or a match and 80% into the series, and so many of these England players just look like bereft of joy. And you're like, how has this happened this quickly? Like, I feel like there's something. There's kind of, I don't know if it's kind of bubble fatigue over years, just all culminating, going, and people being like, right, this is us done, basically. But yeah, it doesn't seem like a particularly happy place to be at the moment. Well,
yeah, I mean, they've been in bubbles. They weren't sure the thing was going to go ahead. They got over here. As they've got over here, everything's gone mental back home in terms of COVID. There's been a few cases around. There was the Cummins thing. There was the the commentary box, and then they're off shortly to some areas with I think the restrictions are a bit tighter, aren't they? The fifth test got moved to Hobart. They're getting battered. I think they're probably just sitting there going, "This is shit. It's Christmas.
Yeah.
This is shit. What are we doing?" That's probably that's what I'd be thinking.
I am thinking it, but I'm watching it at home.
Yeah, I'm not even there dealing with it. So, it's a sad time, and I think tomorrow it's got to be a case of try and inject some maybe pride, not the right word, but inject some positivity into what's left, because there's 3 more games to go, and we've got a gnashing Gary Lyon waiting for us. My only positive I think about Gary Lyon is that he doesn't seem to be bowling an arm ball, so
Yeah, Warren goes on this a lot. He's kind of going, I hate the lines he bowls, and they're kind of too pretty. And I think that there've been some analysts saying that he's like started bowling an undercutter to try and get that ball that goes straight on, which is the dangerous one, because he's extracting so much turn. But we say this, and we will wake up tomorrow morning, and he'll have taken 6 for 50, so it'll be fine.
Absolutely. I don't think it'll matter tomorrow, but that's why England, like the whole Akshar Patel thing, was why he was so devastating was, you didn't know what the ball was going to do next. But I mean, it's not a bad fifth day pitch. This, like the bounce is not getting any that are keeping low or shooting through. It's a pretty consistent bounce. The Lions' turn is big, but it's consistent and it's bouncing. So I mean, they should be able to put up something of a fight tomorrow.
Sure.
But I think we might see one innings fight and a very quick collapse from there. I don't know. Where do you think it's heading?
I mean, Stokes is 3 or 40, and you can draw as many kind of like parallels back to Headingley as you want. It's not. I'll be interested to know if Stokes tries to block out the whole day in kind of like an AB de Villiers, Hashim Amla style and try and get 30 off 220. I just don't know. There's no shred of hope I can provide here. Like I think I'm almost certain that the second over tomorrow is going to be Nathan Lyon bowling to Ollie Pope. And I feel like watching Ollie Pope, I feel like he's got this kind of idea of wanting to be proactive and busy against the spinner and all these buzzwords.
How?
Yeah, he's coming across as frantic, like he's trying to like, just look busy, mate, and he's just going like, all right, I'll do everything. And so that's what I imagine will happen tomorrow. Butler, who knows? Is it going to be his kind of like career-saving 80, where he shows us all what like that ceiling is and kind of tricks us once more? I hope so. I really hope so. And then look, it's what I've got the card up in front of me, and it is just so they might as well be the same player. Ollie Pope, Joss Butler, Chris Wokes, Ollie Robinson, Stuart Broad, James Anderson. I know these people now. They're all going to come out. I know roughly what they're going to do, and we know where the results are going to go. And I will be there watching it, because why wouldn't I?
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? We're gluttons for punishment. That's what it's all about. Right. I think probably is a nice way to end the discussion of the cricket and what we've got in store tomorrow. So I think we've got a couple of questions to maybe go over, and also thank you to Aditya for the super chat. Too much pressure on Joe, he feels. I think that's probably fair, and probably brings us nicely to a question we got on Twitter, which I don't think we can answer particularly well, but we'll give a go. Which was, can you remember someone in cricket who's been as good in a team that's as bad as Joe Root in England?
My only shout was Brian Lara with the Windies, kind of towards the back end of Lara's career. And then we briefly just discussed the Sri Lanka team and realised they were just actually really good. Yeah. And you go, well, you had Sangakkara, and then you go, well, they're Jayawardene and Jayasuriya and Jaminda Vaz and Muralitharan, So, Brian Lara with the Windies, my only other kind of touch point there.
Yeah. Just going to have a little flick through the comments on the YouTube stream. I think Tim Wilton Davis asked if it's time to replace Robinson with Overton. I don't know if that's right or not, but I think it will happen.
Yeah, I just hate the fact that that's the answer to any potential question. Like, what's the answer? The same player. Just like it's
yeah, basically,
I saw Fish, the independent writer, tweet to joke about like this bowling attack, and it was a Spider-Man meme, but 5 of them all looking at each other, just kind of the same right arm fast medium bowler. But yeah, no, if he comes in, yeah, it's a change for this, not for the sake of change, because Robinson might need a rest, but I'm not expecting it to kind of lead to any massive improvement from this England side.
No, I think that's fair enough. Okay, I think we're done here, Cameron. Thank you very much for joining us and saving our daily shows.
I'll try my best.
We will be back tomorrow at an unspecified time, because who knows how quickly England will lose. Even if it's early in the morning, we won't be podding that early, but it might be pre-12. So yeah, check in on Twitter and all of that to see where we'll be on. But yeah, let's all look forward to England putting up a meek fight and hopefully making it at least to tea. But we will see. Last thing, Cameron, if you just want to let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, my Twitter is at Cameron Punsby, just my name. I do bits and bobs of writing for various outlets. So yeah, feel free to check it out.
Lovely stuff. Right. Thank you very much. And thank you all for joining us. See you next time.
Thanks.